Good morning, my name is Josh from Cyclone Sols, and today we are going to be taking a look at a developing tropical cyclone slash tropical low that could form in Australian waters in around 7 days' time. We're also going to be taking a look at some heavy rainfall across far northern Queensland and thunderstorms that continue to persist across South Australia and the Northern Territory. So a lot to get through in today's forecast update. Make sure you are subscribed and also leave a like on the video while you're at it. So we're going to start things off, of course, up in far northern Queensland, considering it is the threat that will be happening over the next couple of hours. You can see some strong thunderstorms fired up overnight and are causing some minor flooding in areas in northwestern Queensland, around the Mount Isa sort of area. There have been places that have picked up over 100 millimetres overnight, which it feels like something that I've been saying every single forecast update for the past 2 months. Somewhere in far northern Queensland has picked up 100 millimetres or 200 millimetres overnight. So it will be great when this rainfall does finally ease off. However, we are expecting it to ease off for the next sort of 5 or 6 days or so, where there will be a lot less rainfall moving through far northern Queensland, especially in saturated areas on the Cassowary coast and up in the Daintree around Cairns and Townsville. And as you can see, it's already starting to come into effect now, a much drier phase moving through that area as a result of just the trough moving a lot further away from the Cairns sort of area, and there's a lot less rainfall as a result of that trough moving further inland. But unfortunately, that rainfall does look like it's going to come back in about a week's time as a bunch of tropical moisture sets itself up in the Arafura Sea and the Gulf of Carpentaria, which will possibly spit out a tropical cyclone. We're not 100% sure on it yet. I would say that a tropical cyclone has maybe a 20 or a 30% chance of formation at this time, but that is keeping it very conservative. I reckon realistically there is a higher chance than not that we will see a cyclone at some point in the Australian region in the next 12 days or so. But again, a lot can change in the forecast, so we will have to wait and see. But again, still overnight, some pretty significant falls were recorded, especially outside of Cloncurry. I believe Cloncurry itself dodged the rainfall overnight, but still there were some communities, Cloncurry and Julia Creek, just outside of them, that did receive some pretty significant rainfall in far northern Queensland. Mount Isa seems to be pretty prone, especially around Mount Isa, not necessarily Mount Isa itself, but areas around it this time of the year are pretty prone to receiving some very heavy falls overnight from these blow-up thunderstorms that we call pulse thunderstorms, because they just pulse up and then collapse in on themselves in an hour or two. And that's sort of what happened last night, just these random big rainfall totals that fell outside of these locations from 50 millimetres an hour just sitting over a certain location for a period of time. And these thunderstorms here are also associated with a big moisture band that's been moving through central Australia, and that not so much last night but definitely more so tonight was driving some pretty strong thunderstorm activity, or will be driving some pretty strong thunderstorm activity across South Australia. You can already see a lot of the precursor moisture now moving through the central parts of South Australia and through here. It's going to be when these trough lines sort of combine across Birdsville and Moomba where the rainfall really does start to pick up, which will happen later on tonight into this afternoon and evening, probably from around 5 p.m. local time, and this will go into maybe about maybe 2 or 3 a.m. Tomorrow morning local time, before really easing off by tomorrow afternoon by the looks of things, or tomorrow evening. But it looks like it's going to be 24 hours of some pretty solid storms, especially tonight by the looks of things as I play this back. I mean, these are some strong thunderstorms moving through the central parts of South Australia, and it is a great shame that we don't have radar imagery here, because I would love to see what some of these storms eventually look like. The Axis hasn't been too keen on this forecast for its entirety, and that does make me quite uncertain in calling exactly what's going to be happening for some locations, because I generally like to use a spread of other forecast models. When the Axis says something that the ECMWF says, then I like to call that a high certainty event, and then I call it as being something that's likely to happen. But considering the Axis G3 model, which is the main convective or thunderstorm model for Australia, it hasn't called for this event, then I'm not 100% certain on the specifics and the details of what these thunderstorms are going to be bringing. At this stage, expect heavy rainfall and damaging winds. There is a good chance of large hailstones thrown in the mix too, and it will likely be impacting communities, especially Birdsville, Moomba, maybe Oodnadatta and Mintabee, but I'm not so sure on other communities, especially into the Northern Territory where the event becomes a lot more uncertain. I think Alice Springs and Yallourn will drop it, will completely miss this event, and then also down towards Marie in South Australia it'll be very in touch and go for Marie. They will likely get a very good view of some thunderstorms, but I don't think Marie and Roxby Downs and probably not even Coober Pedy will either receive some strong thunderstorms either. The Eastern Relief model, which is the higher resolution of the two forecast models, is calling for, I don't think they're calling for Coober Pedy. They're calling for Oodnadatta to receive some storms, but they're not calling for Coober Pedy or Roxby Downs at this time. And as you can see, over the next 24 hours, possibly up to 50 millimetres, and if you go to the 3-day forecast, maybe up to 100 millimetres in one or two locations here. So a year's worth of rainfall is about to come down in South Australia. This is a concerning event for floodwaters, and it's certainly something that we do need to be watching very closely if you do live in South Australia, especially around Moomba and Birdsville as well into Queensland. It is a very, very remote corner of Australia. There's probably about 4,000 or 5,000 people that live in the threat zone from this thunderstorm event, but still, it is highly advisable to just keep a very close eye on the skies. I know you guys don't have radar coverage out in here, but generally speaking, these people are very, very good at looking at the skies and seeing what's coming down. So just keep an eye on the skies. If you're seeing a big green cloud moving, you know that you can expect hailstones or very heavy rainfall from a powerful thunderstorm. Big dark clouds means probably a squall line coming through. So again, keep an eye on those clouds because they'll be telling you a lot more than what I can or what a radar image can. So and you can see this heavy rainfall will also extend through the eastern extremities of the Northern Territory and along to the Queensland Northern Territory border as well, where once again up to 100 or 110 millimetres could be falling in one or two locations through here along the Queensland Northern Territory border. Again, a very, very remote corner of Australia. And that basically does it for thunderstorm coverage. Later on in the video, we'll also talk about a possible flood event that's going to be happening as a result of an east coast low over in Eastern Australia. Here's your little teaser for it. That's a lot of rainfall. But we will now just talk about these tropical systems that could develop because they do seem like they could be land threats. It's going to be next weekend when we start to see the West Australian system to develop. And we're probably going to see a tropical low also develop next Saturday or Sunday in the Gulf of Carpentaria too. So again, still twin tropical lows, but the fact that the forecast keeps getting pushed back makes me more and more uncertain on the future of these systems. I do reckon there's a very good chance that one system will form out of this, one tropical low will form. A tropical cyclone I'm not so sold about, and definitely a powerful tropical cyclone. I mean, we'd see signals of that by now, so I am not sold on that situation at all. The GFS model has been calling for something for quite a while now. They're very confident on seeing a tropical cyclone move through the Northern Territory by next Friday and into Saturday, albeit a very weak system because of land interaction. But the GFS is certainly the model that you want to be looking at if you're hoping for a tropical cyclone. But once again, as I explained earlier, I like to see a spread between the models of the same forecast to call out a system. Here, the GFS is the only one calling for this system in its entirety. The Axis is still calling for something, but it's too different to really make a direct call here. And it doesn't even look like this is trying to become a tropical cyclone at this point. Nah. So again, I'm not 100% certain on the Gulf of Carpentaria system, which means impacts funneled in Queensland are very uncertain, and I'm just going to forget about trying to forecast impacts for far north Queensland until probably about Wednesday or so. And if I can't give you a definitive answer on Wednesday, then nothing is going to happen. Again, it does look like an onshore flow will likely be picking up next Thursday or Friday as these tropical lows start to develop, and some serious rainfall could be coming down probably around next Saturday or so for parts of far northern Queensland. But it is again way too far out to really be making a definitive call on this event right now, and there's still forecast models such as the Eastern Relief that are calling for no more rainfall beyond Easter or no significant rainfall beyond Easter. So again, we're just going to have to wait and see on this system, that's for sure. The West Australian system has a little bit more support from the Eastern Relief and also from the Axis G3 model as well. The Axis, however, is only calling for a very brief and weak tropical cyclone to fire up probably around next Saturday or so, and it's a diminishing forecast on the intensity from what we saw yesterday. So again, I'm not 100% certain on this system. I'm not even 50% certain on this system, and considering it's no land threat, I feel no pressure in calling for a forecast right now. Again, I will keep all of you guys posted on what actually happens with this system, but there's no guarantees that I can be giving an accurate forecast until probably about Wednesday, just considering the uncertainty that we have with these two possible systems at this time. The forecast models don't know what they want, and as such, we certainly don't know what we want at this time. And the Bureau of Meteorology, I mean, they should be running with the Axis G3 model, considering that is their own forecast model, but they're going higgledy higgledy-piggledy with a bunch of other forecasts right now, so I'm not even sure that the Bureau of Meteorology knows what they want either, and as a result there is a very high degree of uncertainty with this system, and I don't blame the Bureau of Meteorology for not being able to really decide on what's going on with tropical cyclone forecasts, because again they are very difficult to forecast right now. Now, as promised, let's take a look at this possible east coast low that's developing. A bunch of tropical moisture will be streaming in from the Coral Sea, and it's going to be moving for locations south of Mackay. And this is a very interesting forecast because what we're going to see is possibly a low pressure system fly off Queensland after driving a bunch of thunderstorms up there in central Queensland, and then it's going to move down the coast on Queensland and emerge offshore from New South Wales, probably around Friday or so, and then next weekend drive a bunch of rainfall over Lord Howe Island and then into the Sydney area in classic East Coast low fashion, with huge waves, damaging, locally destructive winds, a bunch of thunderstorms, especially some thunderstorms on what will likely be an inflow band to this system. It is going to be a very interesting system to track, that's for sure. And then to move it on, we're going to see this big cold front pushed up from the southwest rather, right off Antarctica, which will slam into Tasmania next Monday. So yeah, this is a very interesting forecast, and it looks like this is going to be the winter break that really drives it in. A bunch of thunderstorms though for next weekend on Queensland, especially across the central Queensland coastline down towards Brisbane and the Gold Coast, and then down towards Lismore and Coffs Harbour as well. So this is going to be a very interesting forecast, and right now a huge amount of rainfall is expected. We're talking up to 400 millimeters or so, and widespread totals above 100 millimeters for Queensland and also northeastern New South Wales. This is something quite extreme, that's for sure, especially from the forecast models, but it is also going to be beyond the 5-day forecast period, so we're not going to know 100% what's going on here until probably about Monday or Tuesday. But keep in mind there will be detailed daily updates on this system as necessary, because this is a big widespread weather event, and it's probably the first weather event covered on this channel that is going to be affecting millions of people. This is a really big deal, that's for sure, and I want to get the forecast really hammered home on this system. And just for fun's sake, let's take a look at a little bit of snow. Of course, with every single video we've got to take a look at how far north that snow line is creeping. Well, the GFS has dropped that strong front, but the axis looks like it's going to pick that front back up. So again, we could still be seeing a little bit of snow falling for parts of Tasmania and also into the really mountainous regions of Victoria, probably by next weekend or into next weekend and beyond, if this cold front is to materialise as it is being forecast right now. Anyways, I'd like to give a special shout out to the channel sponsors. Their names on screen. Thank you so much for your support, everyone on this list. It really does mean a lot. And also a special shout out to all of my viewers. Thank you so much for watching the video to this point. If you haven't already, then please do consider subscribing, and also leave a like on the video while you're at it. Your support really is appreciated. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.